hindsight, what a crazy month October was. I hardly remember a thing. Regardless, welcome to Diversity of Life episode 8 with me, Nasi. As I mentioned at the end of last week's episode, I'll be attending CanFURence this weekend, a furry convention in Ottawa, Canada. This year, the theme of the convention is adventure. So in celebration of this theme, I hosted a poll on my Twitter to see what adventure you want to hear about. The results are in, and you wanted to know about my fieldwork adventures. So for this week's episode, I'll be going into my experience in biological field research. As I mentioned in the prologue episode, I have been associated with the New Brunswick Museum for 9 years as a researcher, and this is where I've gotten most of my experience in the field. The New Brunswick Museum hosts something called the BiotaNB every summer. These are 2-week-long field research trips where dozens of scientists across all disciplines work towards cataloging all species from a protected natural area in the province. We have everything from herpetologists to mycologists to mammalogists to botanists like enologists and entomologists like me. These events are so cool for so many reasons. Not only are we contributing to the understanding of species in the province, how these protected areas are havens for species, and science in general, but these events contribute to the greater community. Each year, we hire a lab space in the local town to process specimens. We also let the public access the lab space, allowing them to walk through, talk to us about the importance of our research, and see what we're doing. Often we host parties and open houses to the public too, to really showcase what we're doing and to get elected officials involved. In fact, one time when I was doing research on Mount Sagamuk, one of the largest mountains in New Brunswick, I met the leader of the environmental policy in New Brunswick. He was hiking with his family, and I talked to him about the importance of the project, my ant research, and the value of the findings. And he ended up referencing me in a local policy meeting. During these BiotaNBs, we try to combine arts and science. Each year we have a few artists in residence, such as Alita Kirstead and Wayne Clifford. And it has been amazing to work with them. Alita is a painter, and she actually painted me once, and Wayne is a poet, and he wrote a poem about me and my ant research in a recent poetry book. While these events are amazing, there are a lot of hard work. We tent in the protected areas for 2 whole weeks, working from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. in the field, and then from 5 p.m. to 12 p.m. in the lab. There are some grueling hikes too, as the trails are limited since these areas haven't been accessed by humans in centuries. So we have to slog through the forest to get to the habitats we want to sample. The mammal crew has it particularly rough, carrying in 300 small mammal traps to the sites they need. But it's all well worth it, discovering some habitats that have been not seen by man for hundreds of years. 2 years ago, my expedition crew found a rock-talus slope that hadn't been touched by large mammals for centuries. The lichen expert that we had with us said that with how old the lichens were on the rocks, this rock-talus slope had existed secluded for up to 3,000 years. He even discovered 3 rare species of lichens there, and I found a rare species of ant, Leptothorax retractus. One of my favorite habitats to sample is bogs. I love the rich and unique diversity of plants and animals. From picture plants to bladderworts to sundews, all of these carnivorous plants are fascinating to watch, and they often hold some interesting insect specimens. On my first BiotaNB, we visited a large bog in Jacket River Protected Natural Area. This bog consisted of a mat of sphagnum floating on a large pond. It had the feeling of walking on water, with the ground moving in waves. In the middle of this bog, there was an opening into the pond. This let us get a sense of how thick the sphagnum was to be able to carry the weight of the entire crew on top of the pond. And it also gave a sense of how deep the pond was. The pond was pitch black, and as I stood on the edge, I could feel the sphagnum leaning into it, like it was drawing me in. Easily one of the coolest experiences of my entire life. In this secluded pond, there was an amazing amount of diversity. It was teeming with leeches. You could see them swimming over the surface of the water as you looked in. After some sampling and bringing them back to the lab, we found that there was 8 species of leeches from this pond, including a species of leech that ate other leeches. When we brought one back to the lab, it puked up a leech. That's so crazy. On this past summer's BiotaNB, I got to visit another really cool bog, and I'll be posting a supplementary video where I took my GoPro and hiked in. I'll share some pictures and some other clips from the BiotaNBs as well with that, so be sure to check it out. I've been on some other cool biology adventures outside of the BiotaNB as well. I went on a research expedition to sample ants along the elevational gradient of Mount Katahdin in Maine, a total of 5,267 feet. This was with the Harvard professor, Dr. Aaron Allison. While it was definitely the most intense fieldwork experience of my life, it's also been one of the most rewarding. Hiking 20 miles each day, we got to explore every trail on the mountain. And then as we were sampling, we got to see some of the amazing subalpine flora and fauna. There was dense cushion plants, amazing lichens, and so many types of berries. I discovered that my favorite berry is snowberry, a tiny white berry that tastes like spearmint. We discovered some amazing ants too, finding 3 new records of species previously unknown to the area, and documenting a change in the ant communities across the mountain slope. Each of these adventures has led to a lot of personal growth and discovery, but also amazing leaps in science. Dr. Reggie Webster, a beetle expert, published an entire journal, 18 papers, in Zootaxa on the beetles found on the BiotaNB. 3 rare species of orchids have been found and published about on the BiotaNB. I even found a cricket that had never been found in Canada before. Currently, I have 7 papers in editing on all the BiotaNB research I've done with the ants as well. It really is no wonder to me why amazing novelizations exist of the voyages of the Beagle and Charles Darwin, on Linnaeus' discoveries, and all of these biological adventures. These are all amazing discoveries at a time in the world where whole continents of flora and fauna had never been seen and were waiting to be documented. I'm so lucky to have my part in the history of biology and my little adventures to share. If you want to find out more about the BiotaNB research projects I've been talking about, I've put links in the description down below. Also, I was part of a documentary on biological field research 2 years ago. If you want to watch the 40-minute documentary, a link is down below with a timestamp of my part in it. I will also link down below the video of my hike, as I mentioned earlier, and some other BiotaNB shorts. All the photos and videos in this episode are my own. And if you'd like to see more or hear more about these projects, feel free to hit me up at the con. I'm happy to share. As always, I want to hear from you guys. Do you have any adventures you've been on? Who am I going to see at CanFURence this weekend? Thanks so much all for watching. If you liked what you heard here, please hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. And if you want to see more of my furry antics, feel free to follow me on Twitter. Hope to see you guys next time. See you later!